How did this band sell 75 million records? Did they have some kind of super secret songwriting formula? Actually, they did. We're going to explore 3 tips from the creative songwriting process of Green Day's Billie Joe Armstrong. These 3 insider tips came straight from interviews with Armstrong himself, and I even took them for a test drive. Grab your instrument, your notebook, or just hang out as we enjoy a look inside the mind of a musician. Green Day's Billie Joe Armstrong is one of the most misunderstood songwriters of the past 30 years. Sure, sometimes he only plays 3 chords, which sometimes invites criticism from other musicians. But it's kind of hard to argue with the results, 75 million record sales. They obviously do something right in their music that might be worth exploring if you are a creator. What is it about his process that works? Number 1, the instrument you choose to write with can change the kind of song ideas you come up with, and even help you overcome writer's block. I discovered this for myself after hearing Armstrong talk about it. I remember reading an interview with Billie Joe from Green Day's 6th album, Warning, when that came out. He had been going through a phase where he was interested in writing more on acoustic guitar, but he didn't want to use the acoustic guitar the way most people typically use it. He wanted to show its power, which totally fits with who Green Day is. He said he treats the acoustic guitar like a percussive instrument. When you play punk or metal on an acoustic guitar, the way the strings hit provide a rhythm, almost like you're playing with a drum set even when you're playing by yourself. I heard Everclear's singer Art Alexakis say almost the exact same thing once when he was writing on acoustic for the album Songs from an American Movie Part 2, which is one of my favorite albums in the universe. Ironically, it's their heaviest album, which seems kind of counterintuitive for writing on acoustic, right? You wouldn't expect it to be used that way. But when they went to record those same songs, they switched back to electric guitar for most of them. Unfortunately, a lot of fans didn't really like Green Day's album Warning, but Armstrong thinks that had more to do with the way it was recorded rather than the fact it was written on acoustic. It was their first time recording with the famous digital recording software Pro Tools. He's always wanted another crack at recording that album, he just hasn't gotten around to it yet. After hearing his advice about the acoustic guitar, anytime I faced writer's block, one of the first things I would try to overcome it would be to switch guitars. Even if all I was doing was switching to another electric guitar with a slightly different tone or a different amp. Sometimes I'd even try writing on keyboard, drums, bass, just something different, or even without an instrument at all. Oftentimes, it would work and help me break out of a funk. Usually, I wrote on electric guitar, but after hearing his advice, I tried Armstrong's approach and I attempted to write a power pop riff that sounded in the vein of Green Day on acoustic. Then I recorded the exact same idea on electric guitar and added drums. I think it worked. Number 2, Armstrong had a rule that guides him in the process of writing lyrics. Regardless of what the song is about, the topic, he told Rolling Stone, "It's so important to try to be as honest as you possibly can with your audience. When people find a deep connection, it's because you are trying to find your own deep connection inside of yourself." I think that's the thing that actually ends up transcending. I thought about all the bands that I resonated with over the years, like Foo Fighters, Chevelle, Weezer, Avenged Sevenfold. Everclear was super transparent. Or, more recently, 21 Pilots, whose latest song talks about singer Tyler Joseph's suicide attempt from his college years. That's fairly embarrassing stuff to air in public. Think about it. What do all these bands have in common? When you hear their lyrics, you see their highs and their lows, and you almost feel like you could sit down and have a real transparent conversation with these people. Some of these guys say things that are so honest, it's absolutely embarrassing.
You know, I was sober for 5 years, and then I thought that I could kind of go back and be like just a normal drinker again. I was for a little bit, and then it just escalated.
I admire them for that. They almost lyrically de-pants themselves, but somehow that actually creates a connection. Maybe partly because we detect a shared common experience. On the other hand, I found it somewhat hard to replicate Green Day's level of honesty myself in my own songwriting. So I was writing about a real person whom I had never met. I was like, how the heck am I supposed to be honest when I'm not this person? I'm singing about someone else's experience. So I took a page from an interview with Billie Joe. So I picked out one Green Day song in particular to study to help me figure this out. It's the rock opera Jesus of Suburbia. I love that song. It was unlike anything I'd ever heard at the time. Jesus of Suburbia was about a fictional main character. Billie Joe just thought about what that character would be like when he wrote that song. So I tried to do the same thing. I imagined what this historical character was like in real life and what kind of shared emotions or connections we might have. This particular person eventually stayed single until the day he died. I had just been through a rough breakup at the time. So I had this anger at the idea of love. I mean, I was really kind of in a dark place. So I wrote, "I'll never fall in love again." I knew that was kind of a rash thing for me to say, and I don't even know that I necessarily believed it. It was kind of embarrassing, but that's what I would have written in a journal at the time. I thought, well, that's pretty honest. So I went ahead and put it into the song, even though sometimes when I handed that CD to people to listen to, I was a little bit embarrassed. Number 3, try writing old school. There's something about sitting down with a notebook and an acoustic guitar. No distractions. Doodling in the margin of a notebook, drawing little pictures, just like the artwork inside the lyric booklet for Green Day's album Dookie, if you've ever seen the actual CD and the booklet that came with it. Billie Joe Armstrong tends to come up with the skeleton of the song on his own, with just a guitar and a notebook, like a lot of songwriters do, and then he takes it to the band. I used to write exclusively this way, and I tend to prefer it because it's kind of therapeutic for me. In recent years, I've recorded a lot more ideas and sorted them out on the computer, or maybe on my phone because it's faster. But, kind of like switching guitars or instruments, I could swear changing the way that you write or the location affects what kind of songs and ideas you churn out. Especially if you sit at a computer at work all day, then your brain kind of associates sitting at the computer with being at a job, and then you can kind of struggle to come up with creative ideas a little more. It feels more like work. So try an old school pen and paper sometime next time you're sick of staring at a screen. For this song, I tried to emulate Armstrong's writing method here, writing every single guitar note and every lyric in a notebook with a pen and paper before recording. I sat around on the floor with my old beat-up Gibson, and what came out was an original song that had the feel of a Green Day song, Holiday, but at the same time, it was completely original. I think it worked out well for me. Try these tips yourself. Hope you enjoyed this ride.